Oh, that is soupy. Oh, that is heavy now. All right, welcome back. So today you see I have both LMTs back on the bench, and there's a reason for that. I noticed when I took them out, these are 2 years old. I've never checked any of the diffs, never opened up any of that stuff in this, and I noticed that the center was leaking. And you can see, I mean, it's got almost no resistance on the center. And for a stunt truck, that's not good. The other thing I noticed is that the blue one has got no rebound on the shocks. This one, I've got the rear shocks cranked all the way up. That one's stock box settings, which we'll have to crank up. And then I've got like no resistance in the shop. So I'm gonna do a little bit of tuning on these things, which I've never done. You know, like I said, the only thing I've really done other than the servo failing on this is the lower links. On both of them, I added lower links. The upper links are stock. I do know that, which I'll check now, that sometimes the upper links will pop off their bracket and create an issue, but I'll look. I've noticed when running the Vitavon lower links on this, that if I support the rear, the axles don't really push too far and it doesn't knock the upper links out of place. But if you're having an upper link issue, it's the same link, lower and upper, just by 2 sets. So I'm gonna look at that stuff and we're gonna go from there. But I definitely want to do some sort of shock tuning, because you know, the wheel stands, like this one was wheeling okay. My daughter's son of a digger was not wheeling okay. It was a lot to get it up, and both diffs are actually leaking. And these are 2 years old, so we're gonna take a look, see why they're leaking. Maybe it's something we can solve, and we're gonna tighten up those center diffs to get us some drive. So maybe we can get some rear acceleration wheelies and that kind of stuff. I want to show, listening, you can see there's no water in there now. Venting these tires to get the water out, because I buried this thing in a small, I guess you would say, pond. It's like a overflow reservoir that the worksite is using. It's honestly not even supposed to be a lake or a pond. It is raining severely bad outside today, so this will give me some RC content. I might pull off the body completely, which I've never done before, but just to make things easier. And I might even pull these wheels off to make things a little easier. I've actually never worked on these whatsoever. I'm kind of curious on what bolts this thing has. Let's see, where's my wrench? Yeah, see, I've never even pulled these wheels off, but we're gonna pop them off just to make it easier to work on. I don't know if I need them off to work on front and rear diff. I don't even know if I'm gonna pop those open. Burying it underwater, you might want to check your diffs to make sure that they're not full of water. But these are the original axles, the ones everybody was breaking before the reinforcement, because these are the original ones. The original Grave Digger and Son of a Digger. I know that they revised these axles. Later on, the axle housings. But we're still running the factory ones. I never broke them. And I think that's because I'm just not, I mean, I jump them and I beat up on them, but I'm just not. I'll take a look. Maybe they're cracked. I don't know. They've never had an issue with them. But we'll inspect everything, see what's going on, and see if we can get these things to be a better, like, monster truck. For a monster stunt truck, these things are real, truly awesome. You can see the quality. I always talk about Losi Quality in Losi's builds. These LMTs prove what, you know, Losi Quality is all about. You can see the engineering that went into these things. It's pretty cool. Really changed this style platform in a monster truck. Gives you that reality of truly running a monster truck, but in the RC version, which I think is pretty cool. So now that we got that off, let's get the body pins out. These things will get pretty small once you get all the cool stuff off of them. You know, like the body, the cage, all that stuff. There's really not much to these. I think it's a good truck for anybody who just likes to horse around in their front yard or anything. You can take them anywhere. So let's see. So this is straight out of running them yesterday. I haven't even disconnected the batteries yet. So it's just 2 bolts here in the rear to get this body completely off. I've done no wrenching videos on this platform just because I haven't had any breakages. So now, unplug your harness and let's see what else. There we go. Body is completely off. And you can see I've reinforced it. I really need to reinforce this nose area, which I might order up another body, a cleaner body, but you can see I've reinforced all the areas with some drywall tape and some shoe goo right when I got this one, just because I knew I was going to be bashing it pretty hard. See all the mud on the inside. Even though hosing it off, the electronics still stay pretty dry, and that's why I left the power on when doing this yesterday. You can see where I've connected up my steering servo right here, plugs right in. For the external power source, it's just power and ground. And that's working, as you see, pretty good. Not a big fan of these rubber straps, but they do okay. Yes, and I was running a 4S Spectrum battery. So I don't know where, now that I've got this little thing, and I am going to clean it up while I do have it apart. I don't know if the diff is in this area or up here. Motor looks like it's up here and it drives whatever's under this cover. So let me get something to prop this up. Make sure that you guys can see it. Alright, that'll get you guys a little closer. And we're going to pop off this cover here. See if this is where our diff is. I'm just going after the center diff right now. Make sure that all these screws are the same. Bottom screw looks like it is longer. So these top screws are probably going to be shorter. Yep, top screws are shorter. So that cover comes out. That's kind of weird looking. Never looked at instructions or anything on working on this thing. I'm just kind of going after it right now. But you can see well greased on the gears. Like to see that. I'm going to put these screws back just so I know where they go, because this is not a platform that I'm truly familiar with. But don't be scared to work on anything. That's what this hobby's all about. And you can tell that the bottom cover does have to come off before the top cover because it overlaps the top cover. So make sure you do that way. I just bent the cage out of the way just so I can get in here. Now, I don't know what any of this stuff does. Would have been nice if the diff was just right here, so whatever this is, it's kind of holding that. Looks like there's a C-clip there, and I hate C-clips. But where is this thing leaking from? I might have to take out this whole transmission deal. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take a look. You can see, this is my concern, is in this area here, everything is full of oil. So on both trucks. So I like to keep the front facing away from me and the rear over here so I know what's what. I'm going to pull this bottom plate where I see the fluid coming from, and that might give me more of a clue of how to get to this diff. So it looks like 2 screws, same length, come out. There we go. That was pretty stuck on there. And as you see, well greased. Even though we were in a puddle of water, there is some grit in this area here and this area here. There's a lot of grit, and that's because there's 2 holes. So it looks like this, if there's grease on it, will collect rocks and stuff there. Since I don't want that in my diff area at all, I'm going to scrape whatever gunk is there out of the way so that this dirt and grit doesn't get into my diff. Why would they put a ridge, like a hole there, just to collect this stuff? Just checking for grit. Looks like the grit's contained to the outer. So I see our center diff now, which it looks like 4 screws, and I should be able to slide out that diff. It looks like those access points are for the axles. The axle screws. Yeah. Losi Quality. I keep talking about it. They do build things well. Things are engineered. People are like, you know, Arma Quality is the same. Somebody said Arma Quality was the same as Losi Quality, and I must disagree with that. There's seems to be more quality control with Losi than there is with Arma. At least these things are set out with grease and stuff on them. Let's see what size that is. Yeah, that is a pin. Looks like it's the bigger size. Let's grab some needle nose and get this screw, because that's a pin for the axle. Both front and rear pins are out. Now I should be able to pull these drive shafts out. I don't know. I don't know where my little flathead went. That started to work. There we go. That one came off. Those things are on there. There we go. Both drive shafts are hanging down now. And then, looks like the same size. Didn't even look like I needed to pull this front gear cover. Oh yeah, that slides up, which retains the screws. So I'm going to lay those. And they are slotted. And then the mesh goes on the inside, and you can see the longer screw seems to go at the top. They could be all the same length screws, which they might be. Now, let's get this diff out. Let me take a look. Is that grit in there? Or grease? Well greased. No grit at all. That is good to see. Gonna say it again. And the gear goes towards the rear. See if this will come out. Yep, there we go. Look how easy it is. Oh, and that is pretty tight. So I think all that's coming out is all the grease. This is actually pretty tight for a center diff. I mean, I'm going to add some, but that feels pretty stiff. Metal gear. Nice to see, but I'm going to show you the water that's in there. Take a look at this. Look at the water that's down in there. There's water in that diff area. So we're going to get that washed out and get fresh grease in there. We'll be right back. All right. So now what I'm going to do is pop this thing open and see if we can stiffen this thing up. Even though it's pretty good, it's definitely not leaking. I think it's just the grease coming out of that area. But if you're going to play in water, this is what you're going to have to do. Okay, just checking those bearings. I like to stick these things in. Break it loose so the gasket doesn't tear. And it's definitely got really thick fluid. Let's see if I have some 1 million. 1 million should be plenty. And we're just going to throw in some 1 million fluid. I am going to have to heat this up and let it sit upside down. We'll be right back. All right, so let them sit upside down so the fluid will go to the other end. This is really thick fluid. And I am just going to stuff this diff like that. And that'll tighten it up because there's more fluid in there. So it'll be harder for it to turn. What I like to do is get one started on each end. Tighten them down somewhat evenly. Don't crank them down until you get all the screws in. Start them by hand, just so you don't end up cutting new threads. Now, I'm going to switch hands. So I have this tool so I can really get a grip on it, pull down, pull away. We will be cranking them down by hand. I'm just getting everything set into place. Before I crank them too far down, definitely make sure that it turns. And you can see the excess fluid coming out, which is fine. And then crisscross them. And then let it rest for a minute in case it pushes any more fluid out, and then double check them again. While that's resting, I am going to get the diff area cleaned out because there is water in there. So I'm going to get the water and grease out of there, and we will re-grease it. Time to get some more grease. That's how many RCs I've done in a year. So I'm going to throw some grease in there. And then grease around this as well. I'm going to take whatever dirt and grease is on this cover off. Make sure that this is cleaned up so it'll seal right. Going to scrape the edge. Make sure there's no sand or grit. It'll stop this thing from sealing properly. Same thing with this. And you can see I packed the gear side so that that's well lubricated. Now we're going to get our diff set back in. I'm going to check the bearings. Make sure nothing's loosened up. And we are going to set this back in. Remember, gear goes towards the rear. Make sure that spin it around. Get grease all over everything. You can hear the grease. Go. Did I tell you guys how much I love working on differentials? It's like my favorite thing in the world. Okay. Almost forgot about these. These little widgets go in there. The bump goes out. These go in towards the diff. Now we're going to check it by hand. There we go. I'll probably throw some grease on that cover. Reason I do that is because if any dirt gets past, the cover itself will catch the dirt. Before it gets to the center diff, because this is the bottom. So the RC, this is the farthest down point. So if any dirt gets past, hopefully the grease at the bottom will go ahead and catch it. So I'm gonna make sure the bearings don't fall out. But put the gear in without the pin. Then you can slip the pin in. We're gonna grease that up as well. That is like a cush drive on an X-Max. So even if you lock it, you still at least have the cush drive that is kind of protecting it. That needs to lock in right there. There we go. Right. Oh, I gotta pull that rear cover to put the axles back on. Why don't you guys remind me? Oh, that landed down. That sucked. Now that we got that sealed up, see how good our drive is now. There we go, driving all four wheels. Feels good. So let me know how many people with LMTs locked up their center diff. You feel 1 million is going to be enough, filling it totally full? Or do you think I'm going to want to throw some earplugs in there and lock it up, or just put a spool in there? I know they do offer a spool for it now. See how well this drive is now. Yeah, see? Look at the drive. Lift up the front and it pulls the front wheels where it didn't do that before. It would just diff out. Lift up the front wheels and you see it doesn't turn the rear wheels like this one. So it definitely did help. I'm going to get this thing cleaned up. I'm going to start on my daughter's, and then tomorrow's video we'll be doing front and rear diff. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. LMT, Fun RC? Or would you prefer a different RC? Comment down below. What's your favorite RC? And do you believe in Losi Quality? Thanks for watching.